We know now what the series is going to be, and I couldn't love it more. I'm wondering where you guys are on it. Talk a little bit about how we got to this point, because it was up in the air, really, until last night.
Yeah, I mean, I sent the rundown out at 7 o'clock and said they're going to play the Hawks because there was no chance the Orlando Magic, who played their entire starting lineup, were going to lose to the Maine Red Claws. But that's basically what happened. Toronto won, had Orlando beaten Boston's G League team. They sat everybody.
Yep.
It would have been Atlanta in round one because Atlanta sat out all their guys. They lost to Miami. But because Luka Garza and Baylor Shireman and Boston beat the entire Orlando Magic squad at full strength, it is now the Toronto Raptors. Kenny didn't speak post-game yesterday until that game finalized because he didn't want to talk about a potential matchup against Atlanta.
Right.
And then play Toronto. So it is the Raptors. The Raptors beat the Cavs 3 times this season. They swept the regular season matchups. All 3 of those matchups came before the James Harden trade, came before the DeAndre Hunter trade, came before the calendar even flipped to 2026. They played 3 times in the first month of the season. Haven't played them since. Toronto is a pretty good defensive team. They like to get out in transition. They don't have a ton of efficient offensive scores, but long, lanky, athletic. That's a trait set that has given the Cavs issues in the past. But I would see all those 3 matchups on the screen. I would not give them any credence whatsoever considering how early in the season they came. And the Cavs are minus 600 favorites to win the series on FanDuel and DraftKings right now. Significantly favored. They should be significantly favored. And Jason, how do you see these 2 teams matching up here in the first round of the playoffs?
Well, my allergies are killing me. So you got to give me a minute here. I think it's probably the best outcome the Cavs could have had of any of these teams. I think I'd have picked them to win any of these series anyway, but this was the one that stood out to me. Toronto just doesn't have a ton of shooting. Really, the whole path is opened up for the Cavs with Toronto and Detroit. They're 2 of all the top 6, don't even count the play-in, just the top 6 teams. They're 2 of the worst three-point shooting teams around, the fewest number. So I just think the Cavs have too much firepower. At the risk of looking foolish 2 weeks from now, I don't think it's going to be much of a series, frankly. I think I would probably take Cavs in 5. They have to take care of the ball. They can't turn the ball over. If Toronto creates extra possessions by forcing turnovers, they can make it a series. Short of that, I just think the Cavs are just too good and too deep.
Yeah, I think this is Cavs versus Cavs right here, and not being burdened by past failures. I mean, now they are still figuring some things out, but they're healthy now. They're a new team. What a strange schedule situation where you haven't played a team since before Thanksgiving, and now you get them in April.
Incredibly rare.
It is incredibly rare. I don't know that that's any advantage for anyone, but Cavs have the home court. Cavs have the better players. Cavs have the more seasoned team. Like, they've built for this. We heard Donovan say way back before Halloween, we go 82-0, it doesn't matter, and he's right. They're here. The path is ideal. I don't think that's too strong a word, right? Ideal for the situation.
Yep.
Go out, take care of business. Work on your timing. Stay healthy. Figure out who's going to play in closing situations. But win this series and be healthy going forward. See what happens. It's the path you wanted.
Yeah, I know, Mike, that you say that the regular season means nothing. It does concern me a little bit. I know it's a much different Cavs team now than Toronto has seen.
Lonzo Ball played significant minutes.
I know he did.
That's how far along
But you
ago
did
this
mention that Toronto has characteristics that typically give this team trouble.
That's true.
And I do think they have to force a lot of turnovers. They can do that. Will they do that? I think I'm with you. I got Cavs in 5.
Yeah.
We've been saying really for 3 years that the regular season means nothing. You win 60, 65 games or whatever they won last year, and then you get unceremoniously bounced in the second round. You realize in a hurry, well, all of that was pomp and circumstance to nothing. And I think that may be exhibited in this series more than any before, because they didn't beat Toronto. I remember watching 2 of those 3 games. They weren't even close. 2 of them were double-digit wins. They might have all 3 been double-digit wins. At least 2 of them were double-digit wins. And in one of them, it wasn't a game in the third quarter. It was over. And I just remember thinking, my God, they've got to play better against teams like this, but they clearly didn't. And we'll see what happens, but I do think it's going to be a much easier series than that would indicate. And then, and I know you're not supposed to do this, but I just think the path is a perfect path. If you're in the 4 seed, I still think Detroit is fool's gold. And I don't know if I feel like everybody is disrespecting Detroit.
Well, I would worry about the Cavs' interior defense against Detroit.
Right.
Right. Jalen Durn really is taking off.
Yeah.
But, I mean, right now they're a team that hasn't had their guy, Cade Cunningham, for a
know.
while. And they're a team that doesn't have much experience on this stage. They had a great series last year. They didn't advance past it. So the Cavs have time to figure some things out. What do we want to know? Who has the ball in the clutch moments,
Yeah.
right? Who among that 4th, 5th, 6th group guy who is playing in those clutch moments? And then how do you respond when you get down? I don't think the Cavs are going to roll the ball out on Saturday and win by 20. I think it's going to be a series, but I think it's going to be the more talented team is going to win, and I think there's going to be some great experiences for the Cavs to start to answer some of those questions.
The one thing that I love about having James Harden, this guy hunts mismatches as well as anybody in the league, and there are going to be mismatches, and I just think that he's going to find them. And you mentioned who's going to have the ball in their hands. You know, what will it look like in close and late situations? I can't wait to see what this will look like, because I think we have had a taste of it, but in meaningful basketball. I can't wait until they get late in a series. And now you're late in a series. Everything matters. You're close and late. You know, how will Mitchell and Harden work together? When the level of play ramps up a notch, can Harden still look, I don't want to say this young, but can he still avoid looking as old as he is?
Yeah.
Because so far he has.
Jason, I'm curious what you think here. So we know the Cavs' three-point defense is a potential weakness, and there's the thought that Boston might just be better. What else concerns you about this team as we get closer here?
Number one, health, obviously. You can't really control that. Number two, shooting, if they just go cold at the wrong time. I think that they are, I mean, we've seen it. James Harden is famous for it, for not having great playoff games. And I would also say he's actually had a lot of good postseason games, but that gets overshadowed by
one Game 7 performance. Sure.
Yeah. So I just think they are so reliant on the three-point shot that you get one or two nights where they're not falling, and it's trouble for this team. But if they're in rhythm and they're making their shots, I think they're a tough out. I agree with you on the Detroit thing. I think a lot of people are just sort of dismissing Detroit, and I'm looking around going, guys, they lost their best player and they just kept rolling right along.
They did. Yeah.
So, if push came to shove, I'll still pick the Cavs to beat the Pistons in a series. But I think that's a 7-game series to me. Like, that is no pushover. I think that would be a heck of a series. And then, Boston and New York, we just assume Boston's going to win that series, and I kind of look at that and go, I don't know, man. How wild would that be if New York beat Boston in the second round?
That would shock me.
Well, we just had a situation where
They were up
Atlanta,
3-1 on Boston last year.
Yeah. Before.
Disappointing.
Yeah.
I'd be shocked if New York beats
And
Boston.
we just had a situation where Atlanta kind of chose to play the Knicks over the Cavs.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I know there was a lot of moving parts, but I don't. The Knicks defense has been shaky all year long.
Yeah.
Atlanta's that team. To me, Atlanta was a much more dangerous round one opponent to the Cavs than Toronto.
I thought so, too.
Right? Everyone thought that.
Yeah, I
So
thought that would definitely
I'm interested to see what happens there.
Yeah. I don't know that we want to project this far out, but what the hell, we might as well. We're talking about round 2 potentially against Detroit. What absolutely frightens me is the fact that Boston just shoots the lights out. And do we play perimeter defense, Mike? Is that even part of our? I mean,
So you know what's
is that ever emphasized at all?
I was doing some digging on the 3-point shooting defense for the Cavs this year, and it was not good. Like we all know.
I would say we're in the bottom 10% of the league.
They were bottom 10 in 3-point attempts, 3-point percentage, and 3-point makes against. So
Yeah.
they were not good in that regard. And a lot of it's because they put such an emphasis on stopping teams from shooting at the rim.
Right.
And the numbers stopping teams shooting at the rim, the
Are
Cavs
good.
are really good at.
Yeah. Unfortunately, that's
So-
not where games are played anymore.
Yes and no. OKC, for example, has the same basic defensive philosophy that the Cavs do. They don't want you to shoot at the rim. They want you to force
Bombs
out
away.
the threes. The difference is OKC has some absolute menaces on the perimeter that do a much better job than Cleveland's guards do at limiting penetration and limiting keeping those teams out from the paint. When they do get to the paint, they close out like madmen and force you into rotations, and they're just a really good sync defensive team. The Cavs have not shown the propensity to do that enough on a consistent basis throughout the regular season.
Right.
Now, Donovan Mitchell told us before the season started, none of the stuff in the regular season matters. We'll be ready to lock in for the playoffs.
We'll
That's
see.
words. The way they played defensively at times throughout the season made me think that, okay, maybe that is the, I don't want to say advice that he gave them, but maybe that is the mentality that they're all kind of going under.
Well, conserve. Yeah,
Conserve.
just get there and then
Donovan
ball.
said when did they play the Hawks? On Wednesday last week.
Mm-hmm.
He said, if I played like this for 82 games, I'd be dead by the playoffs. Like they
Interesting,
made a conservative effort or concerted effort, whatever the word is, to make sure they're ready for the playoffs this time around, as opposed to being over-prepared last year and losing steam. We'll see if they can flip that switch. This team is not proven via their regular season track record, their postseason track record, that we should buy into their ability to just flip a switch and say, okay, now it's the postseason. However, if you're going to want to believe what Donovan Mitchell told us, what Kenny Atkinson had told us, what this whole team's philosophy was, that the regular season was basically us getting ready for the playoffs. What happens in the playoffs is what matters.
Yeah.
Then maybe they will be willing to turn on the switch and play with a little more intensity on the defensive end of the court, keeping guys out of the perimeter from the point of attack defensive positions. And when they do get broken down, you're not going to keep everyone out of the paint the whole game. When they do get broken down and they get those kickouts to the corners, it's not lazy, half-hearted closeouts. It's full speed, balls to the wall. We're going to make you either shoot over a contested hand or you're going to have to drive into 4 guys in the paint. So we'll see if they can flip that switch.
Right.
I'm not writing it out.
I mean, if
but
there's
we'll
defense is about effort. And
a lot of it is effort, yes.
And, I could look on paper, it's a brilliant plan. It's like running a marathon. Okay, now we're at mile 21. What do we have left? And hopefully they have enough left to push, because the last couple of years, you could watch this team run out of fuel right in front of you.
They ran out of guys. They ran out of
they
fuel.
did. Health was a big problem.
Look, I'm not trying to justify it, but we all remember that game they lost to Indiana at home last year, right? It shifted everything.
Yep.
Did you ever think until there were 17 seconds left in that game that they were going to lose? It was one of those things that happened. And the three-point defense is a real concern, but they've countered that by saying, we're just going to make more threes. Struth is healthy, right?
And they have.
Jalen Tice is coming back. Sam Merrill. Now, who's going to play? How that's going to work out, I don't know. But they have changed their roster to say there's going to be a time that we have to just make more threes, and I think they're much more equipped than they were a year ago to do that.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, they've got the shooting to match with anybody.
What are the odds? I'm sure Boston favored to win the East? I would think they are.
Yeah. Boston's favored and Cavs are the second favorite.
Okay, that was going to be my question. Yep. And what's the difference between the odds on the two?
Boston's like a plus 160, plus 170, and the Cavs are about 3-1.
Interesting. Okay.
They have a shot.
From 3-4 days ago.
They absolutely have a shot. Anyone writing them off because they haven't beaten Boston yet or whatever, this Cavs team's different than what we've seen in the past. And the way it panned out yesterday, getting Toronto in round 1 instead of Atlanta, I think it benefits Cleveland. You want to go into that Detroit series and into that Boston or New York
rested
series
and healthy
with as little tread on your tires as possible.
Right. Winning in 5 it's not crucial, but man, it could be down the road. You could look and say one of those things.
Because the playoff games, they're like dog years.
Right.
One game can take 7 out of you, depending on how hard it's played. Yeah, certainly getting a quick and easy first round opponent would be a dream, but I don't think the Pistons probably won't be tested in the first round, and I don't think the Celtics will. I love the fact that the Celtics and Knicks have to play. We talked. I said 6 weeks ago it looked like the Cavs were perfectly fine and positioning themselves to take the 4, and that's the way it worked out. I think it's brilliant, to be honest.
I think it had to go that way, right?
Yeah.
I don't think you needed to be outright about it, but I think it had to go that way.
Oh, I don't know if it had. Clearly, this is the best path for them. I said that earlier when I could barely talk. That to put Toronto and Detroit back to back, if one of their biggest weaknesses is the inability to defend the 3-point line, well, they're playing 2 teams that don't really rely on 3-point shots and don't really take a ton of 3-point shots. So that sort of plays into the Cavs' hands. So, in terms of the path to the Eastern Conference Finals, this is probably the best path they could get. Now they just have to go out there and do it. And I still think Detroit's going to be a fight, man. I think that's going to be a dogfight. I think people are taking that series way too lightly, but we'll see.
There are moments in life that you get a chance at real redemption. Just think about for JB.
Oh, yeah.
The real knock on him, he did in Cleveland what he's doing
Absolutely.
now in Detroit.
Resurrected a franchise.
But he couldn't punch his genius credentials in the playoff rounds. Personally, from a personal standpoint, not from the Pistons, and JB would never tell you this, but he's been salivating at an opportunity to get Cleveland in the playoffs too.
Oh, yeah.
Because should he bounce the Cavs, he's just going to look across at all of the Cavs management when that series is over and kind of pound his chest and blow him a kiss.
Yeah, and look, the Cavs have gotten out tough the last couple of years, right?
That's a fact.
And the Pistons don't have Mahorn and Lambier anymore, at least I don't think so, but that's a concern in round 2.
Absolutely.
Yep,
yeah.
for sure.
I mean, I sat here when they fired him and said, guys, JB's not the problem. Now there was personality.
say that.
There's personality clashes and whatever, and Kenny's been great. It's worked like it's fine, but JB was not the problem.
Clearly, the dude can coach.
Yeah.
I mean, can he get it done in the playoffs is another issue, but the job he's done there in Detroit and the time that he's done it,
It's remarkable.
in 2 years, he's taken this team. What were they? A 60 loss team, and they're the 1 seed.
Yeah.
And they did a lot of it down the stretch without their best player.
I'm not surprised he turned them around. I am shocked that he did it as fast. That they did it as fast as they did.
You rarely see that in the NBA.
I mean, to go in 2 years to go from where they were to where they are is a testament. I mean, you got to have the roster, right? But it's absolutely coaching too.
Done a great job for sure.
With real quick with the Toronto series though, Zach, I know you said you had Cavs in 5. Jason, your early
I'm
picks.
Cavs in 5 too.
5. I said 5.
Yeah.
It scares me when we all pick 5 because I also picked Cavs in 5.
Yeah, I would. Toronto probably gets Game 3 at home or Game 4. They'll win one of the two at home. That's a great arena when it's rolling. Like that's one of the best arenas in the league in terms of loud and energy and all that. It'll be a good environment for the Cavs on the road. It'll be a tough place to play, but I don't think it goes beyond 5. I just don't think Toronto has the horses.
AI to play out the series 5 times, and it was Cavs in 5 every time except for one. It was Cavs in 6.
Really?
Yeah. So I mean,
Yeah, I just don't think
not
the
that
Raptors
that
have the
means anything
personnel.
because you play basketball on wood, not
Right.
on a computer. But
Right.
I mean, I just think it's a great matchup for the Cavaliers, and I think it's a great runway into what they're going to see in the playoffs. Sort of, you talk about flipping that switch. You don't want to have to try to find it against Boston. You want to find it against Toronto, and then sort of hone in on things that you need to do better against Detroit, and see how it goes.
Couple of real quick thoughts on just this matchup. We're going to get the Mobley versus Scotty Barnes. Those two are the same draft class, third pick, fourth pick, rookie of the year. Earlier in the year, it looked like Barnes had surpassed Mobley. Evan, in my opinion, has taken the crown back for what he's done in the second half of the season. You have a Toronto team that doesn't shoot a ton of threes anyway versus a Cavaliers team that, as we said a second, doesn't do a great job defending the three. You have the long, lanky, athletic team in Toronto that likes to run. The Cavs in the playoffs, especially with James Harden now, have slowed down their pace. Yeah. It's going to be a battle of which team can establish their tempo and which team can play into the others more efficiently. You have a coach in Kenny Atkinson who hasn't had much playoff success in his career versus a coach in Darko Rakovic, who's really smart guy, but also has no playoff success. Two guys that don't have a playoff track record looking to develop something. And when you look at these two teams, it's a sweep. It was 3-0. I wouldn't look into any of those games, but it does give Toronto a little bit of confidence. Do you guys know the Cavs were the only team that finished in the top 10 in the NBA and basically any rating, any you want to look at standings, record, whatever, that Toronto had any semblance of success against this year? Really? Toronto swept the Cavs and lost to every other good team they played all season, essentially. Yeah. They won 46
so
games.
So they're sitting up there saying, we love this matchup. We think
I'm sure they
different
feel.
Teams.
I'm sure they still have to feel
teams,
good. If you're Toronto, you're talking yourself into, hey, we went 3-0 against them.
Right. Yeah.
And forced turnovers, you got a chance.
All the pressure's on the Cavs.
Oh, that's for sure.
Yeah.